We're about to commemorate the 41st anniversary of the fire here at the original Summerland. With me is Ruth, who's come back for this event, and it's amazing. We've been chatting before we came on air that you were just 5 years old at the time, yet it's absolutely vivid still in your memory what happened to you on that day.
That's right. In fact, it's hard to imagine, but every year it becomes more vivid. Different things come back. Certain wee things would trigger off another memory. And then usually after that it's a series of nightmares, have panic attacks, problems sleeping. I could go on and on, I'm very limited in some of the things I do at the minute.
Well, do you mind taking us through your story?
Yes, I was 5 years old. We came on holiday here, my dad, mum, my sister and I. We'd just actually arrived in Douglas and gone to the guest house. Mum's cousins, they had stayed, they were here for a few days before we came, and we'd bumped into them at the ferry terminal. So normally we would have gone to the hotels quite late on, had a wee look around, maybe gone to the beach for a walk and possibly gone to bed. My mum and dad weren't great believers in kids being kept up late, but because we'd bumped into these relatives we ended up in Summerland. So we'd gone to the top floor, probably because Dad was the sort of person that liked to look around first before we decided what to do. And I can remember looking down, seeing all the people. It was a really amazing place. Even at 5, I was aware that it was, tremendous. And all of a sudden there was an announcement. I think it was about a chip pan fire. So we stayed where we were. Dad was torn between, he wanted to listen to the voice of authority, stay where you are, don't panic. And he was torn between that and his intuition to actually leave and take his family out. So he stayed a moment or two, and then he just said, right, I'm not happy. We're going out, that's it. So we were on our way downstairs.
Because you were at the top, weren't you?
We were on the top floor. We're on our way downstairs and we're actually met by a wall of flame. I become quite emotional here because I can remember my dad's coat, and I actually reached out to try and touch it, and he just disappeared.
What happened? He fell?
He took my sister.
Oh, right.
And just the people surged forward, and he had a sports jacket on and I could see the end of it. I just reached up to just a wee bit above the bottom of it, and I put my hand out to try and hold on, and he disappeared. So Mum and I were left and returned, and I could see the smoke and everything coming up through the open treads, but there was nowhere to go. We had to go back up, and then the flames were coming up through and we had to run through them. Mum was a wee bit ahead of me. She was burnt, and then she was burnt to below her knee. I was burnt from my ankle right up to the top, just under my hips and both legs.
Quite serious, I understand.
Yeah, really, really bad. I lost all the skin at the back of my knees. I was 5 months in hospital almost, having surgery. We ended up, I don't know what Mum thought at that moment, but she must have thought that we were going to die. There was no way out. I mean, the flames were coming at us and we were climbing up towards them. But some way she must have thought, right, what will we do here? And we came to the terrace and she looked down over and there was an ice cream kiosk underneath. And I can remember looking out through the window, and it was as if, even though there was smoke and everything, you could imagine that everybody was looking in, you were just up there. And
5 stories high, isn't it, up there?
We were on the 3rd terrace, right. And then there were underground levels as well. So she climbed over the railings and she said to me to climb down too. So I think, it's a good job I knew how to do it and was able to do it. She threw her bag down and jumped down, and I climbed down after her, and then I got on her back and the two of us slid down onto the floor from the kiosk. So the floor was concrete, so it wasn't on fire. Although there was smoke and the flames and that, the concrete floor, I think, was what saved us. There was a hole in the wall. I don't know how she managed to see it, in her panic. And she actually climbed on a body to make herself seen through this hole.
A dead body, was it?
Well, that's one thing that I find very hard to cope with, the thought of this body. Was this person unconscious or was this person dead? Now that haunts me. I only found that out 2 years ago and I just can barely live with it. She saw a firefighter eventually and called, and when he had an axe over his arm, she remembers that detail, and she called, and he eventually heard her and came back, and now she cut her arm quite badly going through the hole, but he pulled us both out. I was really badly burnt, so they wouldn't let me stay with her. They took me on to the hospital, but they let her stay a wee while, and she can remember somebody else handing her a cigarette, which was shaking that much she couldn't light it.
And you didn't know where your dad was?
We didn't know. We thought they were dead. They thought we were dead. Dad eventually was put into an ambulance. They told him, look, you're in shock, you'll have to go to the hospital, you can't stay here, nobody else is coming out of here, they're gone. Okay. So they put him in an ambulance, and there was a woman in the ambulance. He turned around and looked at her completely blankly. She spoke to him, he answered her, he just didn't realise it was my mum.
In the same ambulance?
Yeah, didn't realise, and his first words were, where's Ruth? He thought I was dead. And then I was taken to the hospital. I couldn't remember the car. I think it might have been a police car, because my legs had melted and the seats were that synthetic, like plasticky stuff back then, and my legs stuck to them, and when I tried to get up, the skin came off, it was stuck onto the seat.
Oh my God. And
I looked at my hands, as you can see they're both burnt, and the skin was all melted. It was like a duck's, you could see the webbing in between them. And I can remember looking, the car was pointed that way, and I looked to my left hand side, could still see the building and the flames and everything really clearly. I was taken to the hospital, and when Dad came in, I said to him, and this is another thing which haunts me, I said, why did you leave me behind? Why did you not pick me up? And I think it was very hard. It was a very hard thing for him to say, and for me to remember that I said, all these years later. I read it, I sent some newspaper footage and I read it, and I wished that I'd got the chance to say to him before he died. I didn't blame him.
Sure.
Sorry.
No.
So many skeletons to live with, so many things that can't put right. So I was in a really bad way. My uncle came over with my granny, and he remembers I was just black. He said I was black from head to foot, and the legs obviously were black, and the hands. So I stayed here for a while in hospital, and they were very good, and I can remember it. I had terrible veins, and they had to cut me across the inside of the elbow there. Rub it out. You think you're over these things, and then when you start to talk about it, sure. And at the top of my leg I have a big scar too, where they cut it to put the veins in, or for the drip for the veins. So I got treated here, and I can remember the black mask over my face for the operations, and it was just so clear. Then we were taken by boat over to Belfast. My mum said the English people were taken by plane, but we had to go a couple of hours in the boat, which was quite stressful. And I think it was a Red Cross lady came. Her name was Winnie Wood, and she kept in touch with the family for years. A lovely lady. She travelled over with us to take us to the hospital. So I was taken to the Royal Hospital for sick children, but apparently I was fretting for my mum. So they moved me to Dundonald, because mum at this stage had gone home. She was they sent her home to be treated as an outpatient, but then her legs got infected. So they put her in Dundonald, and then thought it'd be a good idea to send me there too. So then months and months of operations and salt baths, you name it. Because mum had said to me that I attacked a nurse. That's what she said. I attacked a nurse. And I can remember it clearly. I know what happened, and I'm ashamed, but I was only 5 years old. They put me in the bath to take the bandages off, and the pain was just incredible. And I turned around and I grabbed at her to try and pull myself out. And she was lovely, she was very good to me, and I feel ashamed of that, but I couldn't do anything about it.
You were 5. You were here last year for
yes.
the 40th. Then you come back now for the 41st, and you sat around here last night.
I walked up last night. I couldn't settle. I can't settle at home either. From I found out everything that I know now, I didn't know all this years ago. I can't settle anywhere. I wrote a wee piece on my Summerland Survivors page, which I think sums it up really well, and it's called Captivity. It's as if the site possesses me now. I can't think of anything else. It's just taken over my life. It's like a magnet. Instead of being afraid of it, it draws me. I have this notion, if I'm here and it's there, I'm not under threat, but when I'm at home it's a bigger threat.